Welcome to another installment of Christ Over Coffee. I'm Pastor Chris Spires of St. John's Lutheran Church in beautiful Gillett, Wisconsin, and glad to have you here with me as we continue on through our study. We've been going on through the Genesis, and so far we have gone through the first 29 chapters where we just kind of gone through a little slow, but also making sure that we're just listening and we're paying attention to what the Word is saying. Because it's good to be able to have those times in conversation in God's Word, which is so vital to our faith life. But so many people, we know about the Word, we know some of the stories, but we really miss a lot of the intricacies around it. Sometimes there's little things that pop out as you read it over and over and over again. You think you know it, but then you read it, and then you go, wow, I don't remember that. So it's always good to go through this, and we have a wonderful evening study on Monday nights at the church live from 6 to 7:30 on Monday evenings. We sit down, we go through the Word with one another. It's a wonderful time, full of conversation, study, discussion. There's some discussion time there. There's questions. There's ways to kind of, we ease through this. Now, I use a different version on there that most people don't use, a lot of people don't use. It's out there. It's a great version. The New American Standard Bible, I use the 95 edition of that. I'm going to say I have my copy of it that I usually read from is sitting in my office at the church right now. So I have it here that I'm going to put it up, but hey, maybe we'll go through it together in that version. But also make sure you have your Bible with you. That way you can make notes. You can look at it and go, mine doesn't say it that way. Or, I never caught that. Or maybe this will open things up a little more, hearing it in a different way also. But be in your Word, be in the Bible regularly, growing in that faith, growing in understanding what it is that God is doing, and see how the Lord speaks to you as we go through this. So here we go. I'm going to pull up my NASB here for you, and we're going to read this along with one another. Beginning with the first verse. Now it ended in the 29th, realizing, Leah, she had 4 sons, and now she has stopped giving birth. Now Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children. She became jealous of her sister. She said to Jacob, "Give me children, or else I die." So here we have a pretty hard word. She's despondent because, one, she wants to be able to give her husband children. She's seeing her sister is bearing all these sons for her and thinking, I'm going to lose my husband. There's a competition, an unhealthy competition, because the father, Laban, had set them up in competition with one another by how he tricked Jacob into marrying Leah, the older sister, when he really wanted to marry the younger Rachel. So he ended up marrying both the sisters, which this is not what God desires. But God, you see how he is still going to work through this. So just bear this in mind, because this is not the way marriage should be, and this is not the purpose of bearing kids either. But Jacob's response is harsh but true. Then Jacob's anger burned against Rachel, and he said, "Am I in the place of God, who has withheld you from the fruit of the womb?" Because see, she's saying, I don't know why, but I'm not bearing you children. You need to give me a child. I'm not God. And we know that Jacob, he was... he's a pretty spry guy for his age, right? He's up in there. He's in his 90s at this point. We know he's not a young man. So she said, "Here is my maid Bilhah." Uh-oh. "Go into her that she may bear on my knees, that through her I too may have children." All right, so here Bilhah is Rachel's surrogate. You go, she can bear children. So she gave him her maid Bilhah as a wife, and Jacob went into her. Bilhah conceived and bore Jacob a son. Then Rachel said, "God has vindicated me, and has indeed heard my voice, and has given me a son." Therefore she named him Dan. Okay, so her heart is lifted now. She at least has a son through a surrogate, so she feels better that way. And Rachel's maid Bilhah conceived again and bore Jacob a second son. So Rachel said, with mighty wrestlings, I have wrestled with my sister, and I have indeed prevailed. And she named him Naphtali. Okay. When Leah saw that she had stopped bearing, she took her maid Zilpah. Okay, competition continues to arise, and gave her to Jacob as a wife. Now, so that means Jacob now has 4 wives. This is not what God intended, but God still will work good through it. Leah's maid Zilpah bore Jacob a son. Then Leah said, how fortunate. So she named him Gad. Leah's maid Zilpah bore Jacob a second son. Then Leah said, happy am I, for women will call me happy. So she named him Asher. Now in the days of the wheat harvest, Reuben went out and found mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, please give me some of your son's mandrakes. But she said to her, is it a small matter for you to take my husband? Now, there's more competition here. Remember, Rachel was the first intended, but Leah has laid claim very strongly and feels that Rachel stole him from her, so to speak. And would you take my son's mandrakes also? Now, mandrakes, they do look kind of like the lower parts of a person and are thought for fertility. You look that up. Some of the things are on there. Also, mandrakes, if you eat too many of them, they will kill you. So Rachel said, therefore, he may lie with you tonight in return for your son's mandrakes. So here, she's playing a game. She wants to be fertile. So she wants these mandrakes so that way she may have a child. When Jacob came in from the field in the evening, then Leah went out to meet him and said, you must come in to me, for I have surely hired you with my son's mandrakes. So he lay with her that night. So here, now we have the transactional relationships happening. They're competing. They're competing with having children. They're competing with product to be able to buy time to be with their husband. So God gave heed to Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a 5th son. Then Leah said, God has given me my wages because I have gave my maid to my husband. So she named him Issachar. Leah conceived again and bore a 6th son to Jacob. Then Leah said, God has endowed me with a good gift. Now my husband will dwell with me because I have borne him 6 sons. So she named him Zebulun. And you hear over and over, each of these sons is, for Leah especially, is great hope. My husband will love me more now because I have borne these children to him. It's really unhealthy here. You think about that. You think about Rebekah and Isaac's relationship was not a visibly healthy relationship of what God desired between one man and one woman. This is where we're seeing the struggles arise, and we should never lift up these relationships as being ones which God desired or intends. That's not the case. God can still bless in the midst of these, but this is broken. This is not a healthy, good marriage. This is not what God desires. This is not something to say that God says and blesses plural marriage or anything that is outside the bonds of one man, one woman. God can work within that, but there's always struggles that arise, and we see those struggles arise more and more throughout the history. What we see in the restoration, what Jesus desires, is to restore us back to that pre-fall state, at Genesis 2, the end, where a man leaves his father and mother and cleaves to his wife, where they become one flesh. That's what God desires of marriage. It is a set-apart, special relationship. It does have the great blessing of children also, but that's not the only reason for it. Because a marriage between a man and a woman where no children are, is equally in the eyes of God something that is what he desires. Now, of course, hopefully there is procreation that will occur. One, because if men and women, if every couple didn't have children, well, there wouldn't be humanity for very long. Now, afterwards, she bore a daughter and named her Dinah. So this is the only female that we know of that's spoken of in this. Then God remembered Rachel and gave heed to her and opened her womb. So she conceived and bore a son and said, God has taken away my reproach. She named him Joseph, saying, may the Lord give me another son. So the prayer is that she would have another son. But here we have Joseph, Rachel's first. Now it came about when Rachel had borne Joseph that Jacob said to Laban, send me away that I may go to my own place and to my own country. Give me my wives and my children for whom I have served you, and let me depart. For you yourself know my service which I have rendered you. Now, listen to Laban's words. Because we have Jacob saying, I want to go home. I've done my time. I want to go home. But Laban said to him, if now it pleases you, stay with me. I have divined that the Lord has blessed me on your account. I've done really well with you. I can't let you go. You're good. You've been good for me. He continued, name me your wages, and I will give it. So, okay. But he said to him, you yourself know how I have served you. So Jacob saying to him, you yourself know how I have served you, and how your cattle have feared with me. For you had little before I came. You weren't a very wealthy man. And it has increased to a multitude, and the Lord has blessed you wherever I have turned. But now, when shall I provide for my own household also? I need to build up. I can't just keep building your household up. I need to build up mine. So he said, what shall I give you? And Jacob said, you shall not give me anything. If you will do this one thing for me, I will again pasture and keep your flock. Let me pass through your entire flock today, before removing from there every speckled and spotted sheep and every black one among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and shall be my wages. Okay, I'm going to go through the fields today. Every one of these sheep, lambs, and goats that are speckled and spotted, they're mine. That's my wages. So my honesty will answer for me later when you come concerning my wages. Everyone that is not speckled and spotted among the goats and among the lambs, if found with me, will be considered stolen. So Laban said, good, let it be according to your word. I'll stick by that deal. So he removed on that day the striped and spotted male goats and all the speckled and spotted female goats, every one with white in it, and all the black ones among the sheep, and gave them into the care of his sons. Now this is Laban doing this. So Laban now removes all the striped, spotted male goats and all the speckled and spotted female goats, every one with white in it, and all the black ones among the sheep, and gave them to the care of his sons. And Laban, he put a distance of 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. Then Jacob took fresh rods of poplar and almond and plane trees and peeled white stripes in them, exposing the white which is in the rod. See? So Jacob's sitting here going, okay, I'm going to take your flocks. I can make this deal. Laban quickly removes them. All right. He set the rods which he had peeled in front of the flocks in the gutters, even in the watering troughs where the flocks came to drink. And they mated when they came to drink. So the flocks mated by the rods, and the flocks brought forth striped, speckled, and spotted. Jacob then separated the lambs and made the flocks face toward the striped and all the black in the flock of Laban, and he put his own herds apart and did not put them with Laban's flocks. So he separated these, all the various ones, the speckled, spotted, striped. Those became, he made sure that they were separated from Laban's flock. Couldn't be taken again. Moreover, whenever the stronger of the flock were mating, Jacob would place the rods in the sight of the flock in the gutters so that they might mate by the rods. So here we go. He's still working on this. But when the feeble, he's going to take the strong this way. And when the flock was feeble, he did not put them in. So the feebler were Laban's, and the stronger were Jacob's. Okay, so Jacob is making sure his wages are good. So the man became exceedingly prosperous and had large flocks and female and male servants and camels and donkeys. So he did this for multiple years. We're going to find out in a little bit how many years that is. I'll give you a heads up. He was doing this in the end with everything. It ended up being 20 years. Now, we move on. Now Jacob heard the words of Laban's sons, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and from what belonged to our father he has made all this wealth. Jacob saw the attitude of Laban, and behold, it was not friendly toward him as formerly. Then the Lord said to Jacob, return to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you. Okay. So the Lord is saying, go home. I'm going to protect you. Don't worry. I see what's going on. So Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to his flock in the field and said to them, I see your father's attitude, that it is not friendly toward me as formerly. But the God of my father has been with me. He's going, hey, your dad he's not happy about what's going on with his flocks. I'm getting my wages. It was a fair deal. But he's getting upset because it's not working out for his favor. You know that I have served your father with all my strength. So you have to realize at this point, he is 97 years old, has 4 wives, and 11 children. Actually 12, at least 12. Because he has the daughter Dinah that we know of. So he has at least 12 children that we know of. Yet your father has cheated me and changed my wages 10 times. However, God did not allow him to hurt me. So he knows there's protection. If he spoke thus, the speckled shall be your wages, then all the flock brought forth speckled. If he spoke thus, the striped shall be your wages, then all the flock brought forth striped. Thus God has taken away your father's livestock and given them to me. And it came about at the time when the flock were mating that I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream, and behold, the male goats which were mating were striped, speckled, and mottled. Now, he may have had the dream, but he also knew God probably put it in his heart to do these things that he saw. That's why he put the sticks in front of us. But he doesn't let that all be clearly known amongst his wives, it seems. But we know that here there was some shenanigans that were going on both sides, right? Yet your father has cheated me and changed my wages 10 times. So he would, once he saw it was benefiting, he would try to do whatever would benefit him more than Laban, more than Jacob. Laban was not a good man in this sense. However, God did not allow him to hurt me. If he spoke thus, the speckled shall be your wages, then all the flock brought forth speckled. If he spoke thus, the striped shall be your wages, then all the flock brought forth stripe. All right, so we already went through that then. Then the angel of God told me in a dream, Jacob, and I said, here I am. All right. He said, lift up now your eyes and see that all the male goats which are mating are striped, speckled, and mottled, for I have seen all that Laban has been doing to you. I am the God of Bethel. This is where he had the dream of the ladder. Angels going up and down, ascending and descending upon that ladder into heaven, where you anointed a pillar. where you made a vow to me. Now arise, leave this land, and return to the land of your birth. It's time to go home. It's been too long. It's been long enough. Rachel and Leah said to him, do we still have any portion or inheritance in our father's house? And we think here, you have to realize in there, they both probably feel this is a very strong, they were just a piece of property. It was a transactional relationship. Laban was taking advantage because he knew that that Isaac was very wealthy, because Abraham, they were probably looked at as being the wealthier branch of the family. I'm sure they knew about the great amount of wealth and that had occurred after they'd left. All right. And then they're like, well, our brothers are going to get everything. Rachel and Leah realize they are now married to Jacob. Their brothers are going to be the ones to get everything of their fathers. So there is no real inheritance for them, especially as what they're seeing how their husbands being treated by their father, right? Are we not reckoned by him as foreigners? For he has sold us and has also entirely consumed our purchase price. Surely all the wealth which God has taken away from our father belongs to us and our children. Now then, do whatever God has said to you. So the wives are saying, we're faithful to you. You're our husband. And we'll trust that God is going to protect. Listen to God. Then Jacob arose and put his children and wives upon camels. And he drove all his livestock and all his property which he had gathered, his acquired livestock which he had gathered in Paddan Aram, to go to the land of Canaan to his father Isaac. So we're going. We're heading out. When Laban had gone to shear his flock, then Rachel stole the household idols that were her father's. Oh, okay. So this also lets us know Laban is not a God worshiper. He doesn't worship the one true God. He worships idols. He worships other gods. So he is not faithful to the one true God, even though he is the relative of Abraham. He is a relative of Isaac. He's a relative of Jacob. He is not a child. He is not a follower of the one true God. So she takes the idols. He's one of the Chaldean gods, or many of them. We don't know how many idols, but it says more than one because it is in the plural. And Jacob deceived Laban, the Aramean, by not telling him that he was fleeing. He's like, hey, I don't trust Laban, my father-in-law. He is not a trustworthy man. So he flees. He flees without letting him know that he's going to go. He's acting as if everything's normal, right? So he fled with all he had, and he arose and crossed the Euphrates River and set his face toward the hill country of Gilead. He's going home. When it was told Laban on the third day that Jacob had fled, then he took his kinsmen with him and pursued him a distance of 7 days' journey. And he overtook him in the hill country of Gilead. He is on his way. He is probably steaming mad. This doesn't sound like a friendly approach here. God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream of the night and said to him, be careful that you do not speak to Jacob either good or bad. God intervenes because there's probably blood in the mouth of Laban at this time. And he's saying, you don't touch my chosen. You do not touch him. I'm sure this dream, of course, had an effect, right? I mean, if you were visited by God in a dream, sadly, we don't know that Laban ever turns to God or becomes a follower. So here we move on and says, Laban caught up with Jacob. Now, Jacob had pitched his tent in the hill country, and Laban with his kinsmen camped in the hill country of Gilead. Then Laban said to Jacob, what have you done by deceiving me and carrying away my daughters like captives of the sword? Okay. Now, these are Jacob's wives. This is telling you the attitude of Laban. His daughters still belong to him. That's what Laban is feeling. They are his. Why did you flee secretly and deceive me, and did not tell me so that I might have sent you away with joy and with songs, with timbrel and lyre? Now, we already know, as Jacob was wanting to leave, he was always prevented by Laban. So this is doesn't sound like he's being very truthful here, but he's trying to make it that way. And did not allow me to kiss my sons and my daughters. Okay. This is also, he's claiming Jacob's children as his own. That's why he's saying this. They're not just, he is saying that they are all his. Now you have done foolishly. You've warned me. You've stolen what's my property, is how this is sounding, right? It is in my power to do you harm. I could kill you. But the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, be careful not to speak either good or bad to Jacob. Okay. Now, you have indeed gone away because you have longed greatly for your father's house. But why did you steal my gods? All right, now this is something Jacob's unaware of. And here's his valid claim, right? You stole my gods. Then Jacob replied to Laban, because I was afraid, for I thought that you would take your daughters from me by force. Which, what we're seeing here is showing he's probably not wrong, right? The one with whom you find your gods shall not live. Jacob doesn't know what Rachel did. In the presence of our kinsmen, point out what is yours among my belongings and take it for yourself. Really, show me what I have stolen that is truly yours. For Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. So Laban went into Jacob's tent, and into Leah's tent, and into the tent of the two maids, but he did not find them. Then he went out of Leah's tent and entered Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the household idols and put them in the camel's saddle, and she sat on them. And Laban felt through all the tent, but did not find them. She said to her father, let not my lord be angry that I cannot arise for you, for the matter of women is upon me. All right, what a way to get a man, even one who is not a believer in God, to say, whoa, okay, don't get up. I don't want to see that. So he searched, but did not find the household idols. So she used her womanly ways and her wiles to be able to address this situation, basically to cover up what she had done, because he wasn't going to touch that unclean space. Then Jacob became angry and contended with Laban. Now this would be rightly so. You've accused me of theft. You've accused me of stealing, and I've been fair. Jacob said to Laban, what is my transgression? What is my sin that you have hotly pursued me? Why do you think it's okay that what you're doing is okay? Though you have felt through all my goods, you've gone through my stuff, and what have you found of all your household goods? Set it before my kinsmen and your kinsmen, that they may decide between us two. These 20 years I have been with you. Your ewes and your female goats have not miscarried, nor have I eaten the rams of your flocks. That which was torn of beasts I did not bring to you. I bore the loss of it myself. You required it of my hand, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. So we know Laban was not a very kind father-in-law. He wasn't a good master. He was pretty hard and harsh. Thus I was, by day the heat consumed me, and the frost by night. I was hot and I was cold, and my sleep fled from my eyes, and I did not sleep well as I should. These 20 years I have been in your house. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flock. And you changed my wages 10 times. You kept trying to cheat me. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had not been for me, surely now you would have sent me away empty-handed. God has seen my affliction and the toil of my hands, so he rendered judgment last night. So he's pointing out, you have cheated me. You have not been fair. Then Laban replied to Jacob, "The daughters are my daughters, and the children are my children, and the flocks are my flocks, and all that you see is mine. But what can I do this day to these my daughters, or to their children, whom they have borne? Now, come, let us make a covenant, you and I, and let it be a witness between you and me." Then Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar. Jacob said to his kinsmen, "Gather stones." So they took stones and made a heap, and they ate there by the heap. Now Laban called it Yegar Sahadutha, but Jacob called it Gilead. Laban said, "This heap is a witness between you and me this day." Therefore it was named Gilead and Mizpah. For he said, "May the Lord watch between you and me when we are absent from one another. If you mistreat my daughters, or if you take wives besides my daughters, although no man is with us, see, God is witness between you and me." Laban said to Jacob, "Behold this heap, and behold the pillar, which I have set between you and me. This heap is a witness, and the pillar is a witness, that I will not pass by this heap to you for harm, and you will not pass by this heap and pillar to me for harm." This is a peace agreement. We're having a peace treaty between our peoples. The God of Abraham, the God of my grandfather, and the God of Nahor, the God of your grandfather, the God of their father, judge between us. So Jacob swore by fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice on the mountain and called his kinsmen to the meal, and they ate the meal and spent the night on the mountain. Early in the morning Laban arose and kissed his sons and his daughters and blessed them. Then Laban departed and returned to his place. Now as Jacob went on his way, the angels of God met him. Jacob said when he saw them, "This is God's camp." So he named that place Mahanaim. Then Jacob sent messengers before him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, the country of Edom. He also commanded them, saying, "Thus you shall say to my lord Esau, Thus says your servant Jacob, I have sojourned with Laban and stayed until now. I have oxen and donkeys and flocks and male and female servants, and I have sent to tell my lord that I may find favor in your sight." The messengers returned to Jacob, saying, "We came to your brother Esau, and furthermore he is coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him." Now see, he's saying this to see how angry his brother is. And we know that 400 men is making him a little nervous, because this isn't something, might not be a nice peaceful party. He may be coming to bring war. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people who were with him, and the flocks and the herds and the camels, into 2 companies. For he said, "If Esau comes to the one company and attacks it, then the company which is left will escape." So he's saying, at least now I can split up and make sure that I do not lose everything, or every one. Jacob said, "God of my father Abraham and God of my father Isaac, O Lord, who said to me, Return to your country and to your relatives, and I will prosper you. I am unworthy of all your loving kindness and of all the faithfulness which you have shown to your servant. For with my staff only I crossed this Jordan, and now I have become 2 companies." A little humility here. Also a realization how God has blessed him. All right. So he goes forward and he says, "Deliver me, I pray, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, that he will come and attack me and the mothers with the children. For you said, I will surely prosper you, and make your descendants as the sand of the sea, which is too great to be numbered." So he spent the night. Then he selected from what he had with him a present for his brother. Now this is an appeasement gift. 200 female goats, 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milking camels and their colts, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. He delivered them into the hands of his servants, and every drove by itself, and said to his servants, "Pass on before me, and put a space between the droves." So I'm going to appease him, make sure there's space. This is his gift. This will hopefully preserve us. He commanded the one in front, saying, when my brother Esau meets you and asks you, saying, to whom do you belong, and where are you going? And to whom do these animals in front of you belong? And then you shall say, these belong to your servant Jacob. It is a present sent to my lord Esau. And behold, he also is behind us. Then he commanded also the third, the second, and the third, and all those who followed the drove, saying, after this manner you shall speak to Esau when you find him. And you shall say, behold, your servant Jacob also is behind us. For he said, I will appease him with the present that goes before me. Then afterward I will see his face. Perhaps he will accept me. So the present passed on before him, while he himself spent that night in the camp. Now he arose that same night, and took his wives, and his 2 maids, and his 11 children, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. He took them and sent them across the stream, and he sent across whatever he had. Then Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. When he saw that he had not prevailed against him, he touched the socket of his thigh. So the socket of Jacob's thigh was dislocated while he wrestled with him. Then he said, let me go, for the dawn is breaking. But Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. So he said to him, what is your name? And the man said to him, what is your name? And Jacob said, Jacob. He said, your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with men and have prevailed. Then Jacob said to him and said, please tell me your name. But he said, why is it that you ask my name? And he blessed him there. So Jacob named the place Peniel, for he said, I have seen God face to face, yet my life has been preserved. It's also kind of a pointing to Jesus, I would say, right? Now the sun rose upon him just as he crossed over Peniel, and he was limping on his thigh. Therefore to this day the sons of Israel do not eat the sinew of the hip which is on the socket of the thigh, because he touched the socket of Jacob's thigh. Then Jacob lifted his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau was coming, and 400 men with him. So he divided the children among Leah and Rachel and the 2 maids. He put the maids and the children in front, and Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph last. But he himself passed on ahead and bowed down to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. Then Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. Now you see there was an issue with the 2 sisters and struggle. Then we had the divide between Laban, the father-in-law, and Jacob. Now we have a restoration that arises between 2 brothers, Esau, who had wanted to kill his brother Jacob, now Israel. He lifted his eyes and saw the women and the children and said, who are these with you? So he said, the children whom God has graciously given your servant. Then the maids came near their children, and they bowed down. Leah likewise came near with her children, they bowed down. And afterward Joseph came near with Rachel, and they bowed down. And he said, what do you mean by all this company which I have met? And he said, to find favor in the sight of my Lord. But Esau said, I have plenty, my brother. Let what you have be your own. Jacob said, no, please. If now I have found favor in your sight, then take my present from my hand. For I see your face as one sees the face of God, and you have received me favorably. So here we see that he's given a little back. We know that the blessing was already taken. The birthright is also Jacob's. This is the gift. It's an appeasing gift. It is a wonderful gift. All right. Please take my gift which has been brought to you, because God has dealt graciously with me, and because I have plenty. Thus he urged him, and Esau took it. Then Esau said, let us take our journey and go, and I will go before you. But he said to him, Lord, my Lord knows that the children are frail, and that the flocks and herds which are nursing are a care to me. And if they are driven hard one day, all the flocks will die. Please let my Lord pass on before his servant, and I will proceed at my leisure, according to the pace of the cattle, that are before me, and according to the pace of the children, until I come to my lord at Seir. So he's not going to go with them. We say that he doesn't want to fall under his brother's arm either. Esau said, please let me leave with you some of the people who are with me. But he said, what need is there? Let me find favor in the sight of my Lord. So Esau returned that day on his way to Seir. Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built for himself a house and made booths for his livestock. Therefore the place is named Succoth. So he was planning on staying for a little while. Now Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, when he came from Paddan Aram and camped before the city. He bought the piece of land which he pitched his tent, and from the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, 400 pieces of money. Then he erected an altar and called it El Elohe Israel, the God of Israel. All right. So we move on next as we go on through here. He's staying there for a little while. Now, as my wife said and pointed out, maybe he should have gone on with his brother because of what happens next. Now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went to visit the daughters of the land. When Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, the prince of the land, saw her, he took her and lay with her by force. He was deeply attracted to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the girl and spoke tenderly to her. So Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, get me this young girl for my wife. So he should have gone to his father first and then maybe asked permission. Might have been different, right? But he forced himself upon Dinah. Now Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah his daughter, but his sons were with his livestock in the field, so Jacob kept silent until they came. Then Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to speak with him. Now the sons of Jacob came in from the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved, and they were very angry because he had done a disgraceful thing in Israel. Now this is where the land is now Israel, as is their father, right? This is the land. By lying with Jacob's daughter, for such a thing ought not be done. But Hamor spoke with them, saying, the soul of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. Please give her to him in marriage. Intermarry with us. Give us your daughters to us, and take our daughters for yourselves. Thus you shall live with us, and the land shall be open before you. Live and trade in it, and acquire property in it. Shechem also said to her father and to her brothers, if I find favor in your sight, and I will give whatever you say to me. Ask me ever so much bridal payment and gift, and I will give according as you say to me, but give me the girl in marriage. But Jacob's sons answered Shechem and his father Hamor with deceit, because he had defiled their sister. They said to him, we cannot do this thing, to give our sister to one who is uncircumcised, for that would be a disgrace to us. Only on this condition will we consent, if you will become like us, and that every male of you be circumcised. Oh, be like us. We're all circumcised. We're children of God. You need to be too. Then we will give our daughters to you, and we will take your daughters for ourselves, and we will live with you and become one people. But if you will not listen to us to be circumcised, then we will take our daughter and go. Now their words seemed reasonable to Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. The young man did not delay to do the thing, because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. Now he was more respected than all the household of his father. So Hamor and his son Shechem came to the gate of their city and spoke to the men of the city, saying, these men are friendly with us. Therefore let them live in the land and trade in it. For behold, the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters in marriage and give our daughters to them. Only on this condition will the men consent to us to live with us, to become one people, that every male among us be circumcised as they are circumcised. Will not their livestock and their property and all their animals be ours? Only let us consent to them, and they will live with us. So we're gonna become one, so we're gonna get everything they have. All who went out of the city gate of the city listened to Hamor and to his son Shechem, and every male was circumcised, and all went out of the gate of the city. Now it came about the third day, when they were in pain, that two of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, each took his sword and came upon the city unawares and killed every male. They're going to get their revenge. They killed Hamor and his son Shechem with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah from Shechem's house, and went forth. Jacob's sons came upon the slain and looted the city, because they had defiled their sister. They took their flocks and their herds and their donkeys, and that which was in the city, and that which was in the field, and they captured and looted all their wealth and all their little ones and their wives, even all that was in the houses. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You brought trouble on me by making me odious among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. My men being few in number, they will gather together against me and attack me, and I will be destroyed, I and my household." But they said, "Should he treat our sister as a harlot?" Then God said to Jacob, "Arise, go to Bethel and live there, and make an altar there to God, who appeared to you when you fled from your brother Esau." So Jacob said to his household and all who were with him, "Put away the foreign gods which are among you, and pure yourselves, and change your garments. Let's be right with God. We got these idols here with us. They shouldn't be with us. Let us arise and go up to Bethel, and I will make an altar there to God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and has been with me wherever I have gone." So they gave Jacob all the foreign gods which they had, and their rings which were in the ears, and Jacob hid them under the oak which was near Shechem. As they journeyed, there was a great terror upon the cities which were around them, and they did not pursue the sons of Jacob. So Jacob came to Luz, that is Bethel, which is in the land of Canaan, he and all the people who were with him. He built an altar there and called the place El Bethel, because there God had revealed himself to him when he fled from his brothers. Now Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died, and she was buried below Bethel under the oak. It was named Alan Bakuth. Then God appeared to Jacob again when he came from Paddan Aram, and blessed him. God said to him, "Your name is Jacob. You shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel shall be your name." Thus he called him Israel. God also said to him, "I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall come from you, and kings shall come forth from you." Now the blessing is passing on fully to Jacob, now Israel. "The land which I gave to Abraham and Isaac I will give it to you, and I will give the land to your descendants after you." Then God went up from him in the place where he had spoken with him. Jacob set up a pillar in the place where he had spoken with him, a pillar of stone, and he poured out a drink offering on it. He also poured oil on it. So he poured wine on it, a libation, and oil. So Jacob named the place where God had spoken with him Bethel. Then they journeyed from Bethel, and when there was still some distance to go to Ephrath, Rachel began to give birth, and she suffered severe labor. When she was in severe labor, the midwife said to her, "Do not fear, for now you have another son." It came about as her soul was departing, for she died, that she named him Ben-Oni, but his father called him Benjamin. So Rachel died, and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. Jacob set up a pillar over her grave, that is the pillar of Rachel's grave to this day. Then Israel journeyed on and pitched his tent beyond the Tower of Eder. It came about, while Israel was dwelling in that land, that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard of it. Now there were 12 sons of Jacob. The sons of Leah, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, then Simeon, and Levi, and Judah, and Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel, Joseph and Benjamin. And the sons of Bilhah, Rachel's maid, Dan and Naphtali. And the sons of Zilpah, Leah's maid, Gad and Asher. These are the sons of Jacob, who were born to him in Paddan Aram. Jacob came to his father Isaac at Mamre of Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac sojourned. Now the days of Isaac were 180 years. So this is 37 years past his death, past the time of the giving of the blessing. He thought he was going to die earlier. But he got to see all of his grandchildren from Jacob. Isaac breathed his last and died and was gathered to his people, an old man of ripe age, and his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. All right, so we've gone through all of these chapters here, and this was a lot of reading, and I hope you enjoyed it. As we think about where God is at work, you see how God still works and keeps his promises with broken people, and he works in broken circumstances. But see, his blessing still remains. And God can do that. There's hope there for each of us as we look at the Word of God and we open it up, and we read it, and we breathe it in, we eat it, we consume it, and we let it become a part of who we are, understanding God's story for us. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you continue. If you feel like this was worthwhile, then feel free to pass it on. And if you have any questions, thoughts, or anything like that, you can always email me or leave it in the comments. But I hope you enjoy this, and I look forward to seeing you again. Until next time, remember that Jesus loves you, and so do I. God bless. Have a great rest of your week.